This is where it all started for me. And where I am now is such a thing of beauty.
Our lives leading us to each other at this point is a hard thing to really even wrap my head around. I've loved Elton since I was 11 years old. I knew about the Troubadour when I was 12, even though I'd never even seen an airplane. To be sitting here right now is kind of next to impossible, I think.
It's never too late.
It's never too late,
Never
baby.
too late.
I don't want to be the one to say it, but sure, if my 12-year-old self could see me now, sitting next to Elton John and Brandi Carlile, two of the greatest songwriters of our lifetime, who've taken their mutual love and respect and creative chemistry and turned it into a beautiful album and a great reason to gather at the legendary Troubadour venue where Elton John and Brandi Carlile's futures were forever changed. It was a wonderful afternoon. Oh, look at us. Oh.
What a place. Smell the detergent.
This is the place.
Yeah, it smells the same as it did in 1970 to me.
That's right. They're just trying to clean up after you. 55 years ago, you tore this place up.
Yeah, 55 years ago, this coming August. Yeah, so, yes, it has many memories. I took the boys in here for the documentary that David did, and it seems so small. And it's like, how did this happen? Plenty of people on this stage. I have many memories seeing Dr. John here. With John Lennon, but we had to leave the Dr. John concert because John was playing Dr. John's organ with his elbow. It's time to leave. I think it's time to leave.
The ejection era. You played in 2007 and you shared a really sweet thought, not to betray trust, but there was a big motivating factor behind you wanting to finish that tour here, right? And
Right.
play here.
Yeah, it had been my dream to play here since I was a young teenager because I knew that this was Elton's big gig in the States. And so just seeing it, just getting to see the marquee was just, pictures. I still have the pictures of the marquee.
I think it's a really important observation at this point because people will read about this album and ultimately be drawn to this album and assume that you're fans of each other, and they're correct in that. But they may not know how deep this goes for you, right back to your childhood, and how important Elton has been, not just as a musical influence, but as a North Star.
That's absolutely. And he's been so generous to entertain the
Fangirl?
whims of a fangirl, of a fantasist.
Yeah.
But I just think it really is proof that extraordinary things can happen to a person in their life.
She's come so far. I mean, we first met. She wrote me a letter saying, I've been such a huge fan of yours. Would you ever consider playing one of my tracks? And I was in Vegas. And I said, sure, if you come up to Vegas, I'll do it straight away. So we went into the Palm studio, and as soon as I met her, I knew she was special. And I knew that we'd be friends because there was something that just, when it's serendipity, the magic between us. And so from that point on, we did become friends. Not just musically, but on a social level. Our families are very close. And it's one of the greatest things that's happened to me. And to see her grow, and I like nudging her. Because I know what she can do. I know what she has done, but I know what she can do, and she can do a lot more. So a couple of years ago, I bought her an electric guitar, and I said, come on, girl, you can play this. I bought her a Les Paul, and she started using it. And on this album, it's a perfect example of, it's one of the reasons I wanted to make the albums, because I needed her to push me.
Yes.
I knew she could just go along with anything. She's that talented. So I needed her to push me. And I needed Bernie to push me, I needed Andrew to push me. So all four of us pushed each other. I nearly pushed them all out the door because I was in such a horrible mood when I started making this record. I was really tired, I was irritable, the world was going crazy. And for the first 3 or 4 days, I gave everybody hell, and we filmed it all. The whole thing was filmed. So there's a few embarrassing moments for me in that, but I don't mind because in the end, that energy and that darkness that was going through me just pushed me and pushed me and pushed me. And suddenly, when we did the Rose of Laura Nero, when we finished that, it just like
It opened it up.
we went through the wall with that one.
Music
Yeah.
did its job. That's what it does. I mean,
Yeah.
if you are lucky enough to be able to have time and space and a dedication to pursue something in the arts, it acts as more than a result. It's a process and a part of living your life. And I'm so grateful that you're sharing these candid moments, because what I saw in those moments was not anything remotely spoilt going on. I saw
No.
someone who wanted to achieve at a very high level
Yes.
and wasn't able to necessarily find their way through in that moment. It felt like you were being too hard on yourself.
I was
That's what
scared.
thought.
I was very scared. I wanted to make this album, and I knew what I wanted it to sound like, but that's all very well. You've got to actually do it. Yeah, I had a lot of fear, which is great, but I took it out on other people, which is not so great.
Well, you took it out on people that love you, though, and know you. And, we had our own inhibitions, and we were expressing them in awkward ways, too. The way that you express yours makes some noise, but there's something really that's quite a relief about seeing somebody act how they feel. I think we don't see that so much these days. And so it was actually quite inspiring for me. It really made me want to show up for Elton
Right.
and show up for myself.
What was going on with you when you started the record? What were you feeling?
Well, I had all this existential anxiety about whether or not, like, the reason why I write songs, is Elton and Bernie, and whether or not, like, my heroes, I could keep up with them, first of all, because Elton's very quick. He likes to do things quickly.
Yeah.
And he does do things quickly, flawlessly. So I was worried I wouldn't be able to keep up, and I was worried it wouldn't work, that it just wouldn't click. And then what would that say about my life's work, So it just felt too important. And I think that some of Elton's behavior, it made me laugh, and it made me take myself a little less seriously. And we wound up like meeting in the middle of all this audacity. And I think our friendship really grew up in that few weeks, where we got past some pleasantries, I guess you could say.
Yeah. Get rid of any of the kind of perceived friendships that
Yeah.
you exist. But in that environment, they almost mean nothing if the music isn't happening, right? Like,
Yeah.
the friendship will happen outside of the room.
Yeah.
But we got to get these songs out.
Yeah.
Well, we went in with nothing, and we came out 3 weeks later with the album. I mean, we literally had nothing. My anxiety and my frustration were because when I was singing harmonies, I do a lot of harmonies. She takes a lot of the leads on the record. And so when I'm singing harmonies to her phrasing, it's difficult because every artist has a different way of phrasing. For example, on Who Believes in Angels, if I had an easy life, would I still choose you? Would I follow the same knife? Same knife. And I would go, same knife, and same knife. And I would go nuts. And luckily, she was very patient, and Andrew was incredible. No, he said, it's the same knife. And she was saying, same knife. And I was still see, same knife. And then the lyrics got turned up, and so I'm still on the floor. It's incredible because I had the same thing with John Lennon many years ago with Whatever Gets You Through the Night. Yeah. It's the hardest thing to put your voice on someone who's already done it. But it just challenged me. And the thing I love about this record is it's a duet record, and it's a proper duet record. It's not she takes one line, I take another. It's not Don't Go Breaking My Heart. These are songs that we sing together. And I don't think there's been an album of harmonies between two people like this for maybe 30 or 40 years.
And never in your lifetime. And this is what's so special about it, is that to get to this point after such an incredible career already, people understand if you're like, I'm just going to do it my way to the end now, or I'm going to make records the way I want to make it.
Yeah.
But to lean into an environment, to learn something new with somebody else. And also what's amazing is that you're learning how Brandy's doing it, but you are 100% going into Elton mode as well.
Oh, yeah. I've always said, like, I've been singing with Elton my whole life. You just didn't know it, till 10 or 20 years ago. And it's like, I think it's Elton John, right? So there's an Elton John vocal on every album that he makes, and everybody sings to that. They adhere to that. They play to that. It's like he's the North Star. So you're right. He didn't have to do this. He didn't have to make himself a part of a group and go in and acquiesce to someone else's vocal. So I can totally see why that would have been wildly.
Well, we planned this album. I did Glastonbury, and that was more or less the end of the tour. We ended on the biggest high one could ever have. We had the Dodger Stadium, we had Glastonbury, and then we had this album. And I knew that I didn't want to make the same with kind of record again. And I knew that if we did do this album with Bernie and Andrew, it would be a challenge. Yeah. But I wanted the album to move forward. Because, I'm always looking forward. You know me, you've known me for years. Mm-hmm. I'm always trying to look forward. Mm-hmm. And if I had just made another Elton John record, I would have killed myself. And I needed her.
Loved it.
I needed her talent, her energy, her humor, and her brilliant lyrics. I've got two of the greatest lyric writers in the world, Bernie Taupin and Brandy Carlisle, and the lyrics in front of me. If you can't write great songs to those, and that's my great talent, to be able to interpret those beautiful lyrics quickly. And when we got going, it was like whoosh, like an express train.
I just want to talk about the spirit of friendship that's on this record, because you've had a great band with you for a long time, that when you're on stage, they got your back. David's got your back.
Yeah.
Your kids have got your back.
Yeah.
But when it comes to you as a writer in the studio, with few exceptions, it's you.
Yeah.
And it's all on you. How different was this experience knowing that you were getting to make music with people in a collective environment?
It was a much different experience. Not the fact of just writing the songs, but, you know, when you've got 4 people's opinions and you want to make sure that you respect their opinions and you want to make sure that you've got all this essence of lyrics right for the album. It's a responsibility. I had a responsibility not just to laud it as Elton John. I had the chance to make a combined record with 4 incredibly talented people. Andrew Watt, probably one of the best producers in the world, without question, who is so great for me. He pushes me, he makes me laugh. He's got more energy than anyone. I mean, I got a lot of energy, but Andrew is like a firecracker.
He really is.
Brandy is, you know, it's just very calm, and Bern is, you know, he's been around me long enough to know me inside out. My responsibility was to make sure that the record sounded like all 4 of us. And it does.
Yeah.
I'm so proud of this record because it achieved everything that I wanted to. And, you know, you go in the studio, you sometimes you want something to happen, but it doesn't happen. But with every single lyric, with every single performance on this record, I would not change a thing.
Well, here's how we all know that the other 3 people and the band that assembled to play, the Watt All-Stars, have got your back.
Yeah.
Because we don't really get a sense that here's Elton until about a minute 40 in when you show up on the piano, and about 20 seconds later when you start singing together.
Yeah.
And the whole beginning, right, the Rose of Laura Nyro, is almost like, we got you, we're here, we're playing for you, we're throwing everything at this, right? Like, we want you to know that everyone's on their A game from the second this album starts. I want to talk about that song. I want to talk about the making of that song, the intro of that song, the size of that song.
The fact that it's that intro, which was obviously done after we did the song. We've been talking about Laura Nyro. She was so symphonic, and Eli's Coming is the song that's based on.
Yeah.
Which is an express train of a song from Eli and the 13th Confession. So that was the kind of template, because it was going to roar and roar like she does. And she actually inhabited me when I wrote that song. But it's
I
so
did too.
Laura Nyro. She was inside me. And the fact is, she phoned me that night and said, "You won't believe this. When we did the track today, it was her birthday." It just poured out of me, that song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember when he was first writing it, and I was standing around with my pencil and paper, just in awe of the chords he was coming up with, and trying to remember certain melodic morsels that I wanted us to repeat and stuff like that. And he just goes, boom, 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 boom. And then he goes, Eli's coming. And it was like, I knew at that point that he was inhabiting Laura Nyro ethos and that we were going to make a special song.
You know, Laura Nyro is one of those artists that thankfully her music continues to be discovered and to resonate long after she passed away, but in her life probably never experienced the level of success that you know, I think fans would have hoped for her. Taken Too Soon, strange story about that too, in terms of like the way she passed away, her mother passed away, same age, there's a lot going on.
49, same cancer.
Yeah, a lot going on. And so it makes me think about the idea of the courage it takes for artists to decide to show up at all, and what part of being remembered actually plays or starts to play a role in your experience.
Well, that's the whole song is really due to Bernard Gilpin. He came up with that lyric. I didn't say go and write a song about Laura Nyro.
No.
As soon as he set that lyric in front of me, I knew exactly what it was going to sound like. I knew what it was going to be like. And I went, how great, a song about Laura Nyro, who I idolized. We idolized, he and I idolized her. And so it was pretty damn easy to write because it just, I don't know, I thought I want to write something she would love, a tribute to her who's been ignored. A bit like when I did the Leon Russell album. He'd been forgotten about for years. And it's so wonderful to be able to pay tribute to people that you love so much. And the second track also on the album, which we'll come to. But when it goes at the end, it's just like she's screaming on the end of Eli's Coming. It's just like, yeah! It was fantastic. I mean, I got goosebumps thinking about it.
It's an incredible way to start the album. It's a reminder that art creates a sort of version of immortality.
Yeah.
So it's not the sort of kind of first track you think Elton John and Brandy Carlisle would start the album. They probably think I would be ding, 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 ding. So no, it's
What
not
the
at
hell
all.
is that supposed to
I
be?
think that I kind of want to hear where that goes. I think everyone has got the message, if I may be so bold, that you are now in the midst of the worst retirement ever. You know, it was never about retirement, was it? It was
Never
the
about
touring.
retirement. It was just
touring.
coming off the road, spending time with David and our boys.
Yeah.
I would never retire from music. You know me, I love music so much, new music. I do my radio shows on Apple.
Yeah.
And I love making music. This album should have come out last year, but because of my eye infection, we had to put it back a year. So we've had to kind of not listen to it for a while and then
I've listened to it the whole
re-energize
time,
ourselves. So, but the first 3 tracks on the album, I mean, it's ridiculous.
It's incredible. Let's get to Little Richard. I mean, that the importance that image of Little Richard's Bible fascinates people who don't know the story. You know, the to and fro between free will and God's will. The idea of sort of like, you know, who am I really in all of this? You collaborated with him. What was that experience like working with Little Richard?
Oh, it was incredible. I mean, the fact is, we did a song called "The Power"
That's a
in
great
Atlanta for my duets record. And when we were recording, he didn't know that you could stop and do it again and just drop in. He thought you had to do it all from the beginning.
Still,
again.
wow.
You know, he was, you know, it was for me one of the greatest days of my life, and he was so sweet. And it's one of my favorite tracks that I've ever done because I got to play with Little Richard and sing with Little Richard.
Yeah.
And when people ask me, what would you like to play from your oeuvre? I say, play that one because it's it's Little Richard.
Did you allow yourself some time in the moment, looking back on it, to be that kid, to say to yourself, like Brandy has done, I'm sure, multiple times, I'm here in the room with this person. That power of manifestation of being a fan to a friend to a collaborator is real.
Well, it's the same when I did the Leon record. I mean, I was in awe.
Yeah.
And he was so ill, but he rose to the occasion so brilliantly. And it was like that working with her because it was the same experience. I was working with someone I loved who I hadn't worked with before in a recording studio, really. She did a track but it was done separately for the lockdown sessions. So Little Richard was electric. Laura and I was electric. She's electric. And so when you get that electricity flowing, and Andrew Watt has got more electricity flowing, Bernie is kind of like the... He's electric in his own quiet way.
Lyric Yoda.
Andrew Watt's like a nuclear reactor.
He came up with these first 2 lyrics of Laura Nyro and then Little Richard's Bible. And it's like, wow. And so I knew exactly what to write for Little Richard's Bible. I mean, and the fact is, no one knows this, but I put it down to just Chad Smith from the Chili Peppers was the drummer on the album. Pino Palladino was the bass player.
Josh was involved too, right?
Josh Klinghoffer did all the synths. And Andrew played guitar, and so did Brandy. And I played the piano. And so a Little Richard Bible, he just put a hi-hat, and I put the piano track down first.
Because you couldn't wait to do it. Too much fun.
No, it was I just had it in my brain. I've got to put it down.
Yeah.
The solo as well at the end and everything like that is all done in one take.
Is that the closest you can get between being Elton John today and Elton John the kid, listening to Little Richard, learning and teaching himself how to play?
It was like, just listen. It's like when I first heard Tutti Frutti or The Girl Can't Help It.
Yeah.
He was flowing through me. Laura Nyro was flowing through me, and he was flowing through me because I love both of those artists so much. They gave me so much as a performer and as a musician, as a songwriter. Little Richard it was Winifred Atwell first, Little Richard, Jerry Lee Lewis, Leon Russell, and Laura Nyro and Leon Russell. Those are the 5. And I've been able to pay tribute to all of them.
Swing for the Fences, Brandy, this is a huge song and a moment for you to really stretch out into what you do, which is write songs, beautiful, brilliant, heartfelt songs, more often than not as saying something that matters to you and therefore matters to people. You're an unafraid writer. I've said that to you before. When it comes to making music, fear does not play a role. And I really admire that about you. A tough song to write, probably a hard song to listen to, because even when you wrote it, things are fucking worse.
Yeah.
So the song is changing shape in real time.
Yeah. Well, I think that the way it sits in the sequence, which was an accident, is serendipitous in its own way, because you got songs about Laura Nyro and Little Richard, who are sort of our queer predecessors, right? They sort of came before Elton and I in many ways, and weren't allowed really, I think, to fully walk through the world unabashedly as gay people. And then we've got this song that's kind of an anthem of encouragement to LGBTQ youth. I think it's a really interesting way to follow up the lives of those 2 icons that influenced us so much, but I think who deep down we wish could have walked through the world the way that we are getting to walk through the world now.
First through the wall, bloodied and bruised.
Yeah, so I love that we were able to take that encouragement, and hopefully it can aggregate. Hopefully it can help those marginalized kids and those young people right now, and they can look to me and Elton and they can go, yeah, I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be all right.
Yeah.
because we got their back.
It's positive. It's not a slow song. It's
positive,
not a miserable song.
right?
It's like,
Yeah.
again,
Yeah.
electricity is flowing through that
It's
song.
like be unafraid.
And I like using the sports analogies because, like Freddie Mercury did, because there's they really turn that trope on itself and,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
say swing for the fences. It's really cool to get to own those analogies.
Well, we allow everybody to be whoever they want to be for the most part in that environment, in athletics and in sports where you're rooting for a team. It's like, well, it's more important to me that the team wins than what your personal preferences of how you live your life.
yeah.
It's really interesting how we give everyone a pass there.
Right.
Yet when it comes to the arts or living your life outside of that, it's like, oh, no, you're not doing it the way I want you to do it, or I think is the right way to do it.
Right. But it's that same instinct of camaraderie, and we're only forced to compete with each other. If we really look at it at the end of the day, we do want each other to succeed. And look at Elton and the way that he cultivates these relationships with young people. And by the way, he always gets a lot of he's known for finding young artists and calling them, encouraging them, but he doesn't just do that. He's also honest, He also says, but I think your best work is ahead of you.
Has that come at a price for you to some degree, personally, away from all of what you stand for is so important to all of us and to the world, and it will go down in history as being a part of who you are and the spirit of the man.
It's essential to who I am. It's vital to who I am. I cannot live without new music. I cannot live without it.
And what about the honesty it's taken to be able to plant your flag in the ground and help others on such a huge global level?
And it's so funny, everyone's saying, things don't happen so quickly for people like Ray and Olivia Dean. And look, Sabrina Carpenter, this is her 6th record. The Chapel Roan was dropped by Atlantic Records. It's taken them 5 or 6
Charlie
years.
XCX,
But it
10
stood
years
them in
on.
the
Yeah,
greatest stead because they're ready.
Yeah, that's right.
And like I was playing with
Ready.
Boozology for years, and then backing Patti LaBelle and Major Lance and Billy Stewart. And when I came to the Troubadour, I was ready.
You're right.
I was totally ready. I saw Chapel Roan in London. I was blown away. She's ready.
She's ready.
Well, it's like, because all the heartbreak and all the disappointments, they make you stronger. And I would try to relay that to people. I said, don't get too frustrated if the first couple of... Lola Young is a prime example. This record is a monster record. It's a fantastic record. She's been going since I played her first track in 1920. In 1920. 1920. She's really old, In fact...
She looks great.
Her name should be Lola. Her name should be Lola Old.
I think this is the moment when you just basically finally revealed who you are, which is you're a fucking vampire.
Yeah, exactly.
Lola's a vampire.
Yeah.
There's a few of us walking this earth, right?
Yeah.
I said she should be called Lola Old. But it's so great to see these people who are so talented persevere. Don't happen too quickly. Don't happen too quickly. Have the disappointments. It makes you stronger. It gives you backbone. But I'm always there. I say, listen, Humble the Great, call me up, do this, do that. But you're doing really great. It's going so well.
You did it for me when I made an album.
Yes.
You called me in Liverpool.
Yes.
And told me, I love your album. Don't stop.
Yeah.
Haven't made a record since. But I love the advice at the time. Never too late.
I would send him a ballad, and he'd write back and say, I love it when you rock.
Yeah.
Like, he wouldn't say, like, oh, that's shit, but he would say, I love it when, you know what I mean? But
This
that's
is his way.
like, he's
Anyone can
very
write a
special.
ballad.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
could both write ballads coming out of our bums, but rocking is hard.
It's hard.
It's hard to write a great rock song.
It is.
Well,
It is.
that's why you've given us 3 real rock records
start the
to
album,
start the
yeah.
album.
What you're saying about those artists specifically is so true, though. That's what's setting them apart, is they've got this decade of trials and tribulations
Charlie
behind them.
XCX, hello.
10 years.
Yeah,
Records of Shimmer.
that is what it is.
Bang.
That's the magic.
Shabuzi, Teddy Swims, Krungbin, Chapel Roan, all these artists are 10 years in, multiple albums in.
Yeah.
It's changed the criteria of what a new artist is.
Yeah.
Are you ready should be the criteria.
Ooh, I like that.
You've only got to look at Lola Young's video to see it. She's ready. This is how that video is so strong, so powerful, shows you just who she is. And you can see her going, yes, yes.
She knows.
She knows.
And it's like Ray, when, she sang your Oscar-winning Tears with the orchestra. at the
Yeah,
album.
incredible.
It's like, hello.
An independent artist who'd been dropped.
Yeah, there's so much more talent around now than there has been for so long.
agree.
It's astonishing. In Britain, we have so many wonderful girl singers. Cleo Sol.
Amazing.
Nectar Wood, all these people. And it's just so wonderful to hear them. And they may not happen first 2 or 3 albums. Neo is another one. She just got a new album out last week. It's so great to see them grow, and, I love it.
It's never too late, as
never
the
too
song
late.
says. It's never too late. A really important moment in this album, because a chance, I think, really for you to lean into Elton's life, into Elton's story. And how was that experience for you, leaning into that particular song at that moment in time in relation to the project and the album?
Well, that's a special song, because really it's a love song from him to himself. And Bernie has been such an influence on me in being able to interpret that and being able to kind of embody something about Elton that he wants Elton to know. And Elton says those things.
That's right.
When
That's what it is.
he writes the song, and he does it so quickly that it's over time that it reveals itself to be so quintessentially him. You know, and when he's saying, you know, what's new in the news? Who's hot? Where's the glory? Like, you know what that phone call is like. Yeah. It's like Elton doesn't want to dwell in the past. He doesn't want to dwell in himself. He wants to talk about what's hot, what's interesting, you know, what's edgy. And I love that energy about him. And I wanted him to sing those words about himself. And he says, fuck off all the time, you know, like Brian Cox from Succession. I wanted to hear Elton say fuck off in a song because it's something you say so often. Yeah. And he's an Iron Man. The things that he's survived to come through just in the last 5 years they would have put me and you into a tailspin. But not him. He's too freight train-like. He's too forward-moving. And so I wanted to write a lyric after seeing that beautiful documentary that was a message of encouragement about him coming from him. I pictured him in the mirror almost, you know, which is very dramatic. But I didn't know if he would write to it, because it's the first time I ever put a lyric in front of Elton was that song.
It may take some time between Bernie or Brandy presenting you with a lyric before you can truly identify what it means to you personally, but you feel something. What did you feel when you read those words?
Well, it made me laugh for a bit, and I knew exactly what it was about. You're an Iron Man, baby, fuck off Heaven's Gate. That's very me. Of course, in the film it says to hell with Heaven's Gate.
Yeah.
It's very rarely that I get to write a song about myself.
Yeah.
But it's such a beautiful lyric. When I did We All Fall in Love Sometimes on Captain Fantastic, that was for me one of the greatest moments of my life because it meant so much to me. Because it was about Bernie and I, and it was just like so beautiful. This is kind of similar. I have come through a lot, and the documentary was originally called Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, and thank God it's not anymore. This Never Too Late. When she wrote the song, that's it. It's going to be. That was David's idea, my beautiful husband. I said, that's the song in the documentary, and so yes, it was done very quickly. Again, you know, we finished all these songs in 3 weeks. That's pretty damn good. I mean, we did 14 songs and 10 made the album. It's a song that I think will get better and better the more you sing it, like Mona Lisa's and Mad Hatters or something like that. It's that kind of song that I will enjoy singing if I ever sang. It's a song for me about where I've come from, where I am now. And where I am now is such a thing of beauty. And I think the song is a thing of beauty. It's not an angry song, it's a beautiful song. It's got all my idiosyncrasies in there. But it ends up in a really beautiful, positive place, which is where I am.
Yeah.
With a beautiful family.
Yeah.
Well, and that's a song that wouldn't exist without our families, you know? Just as the whole arc of that film wouldn't exist without his family.
She wrote that song in France when we were on holiday together with the families. It was just...
Yeah, I saw that documentary. It's like first he, you know, influenced me as a child, and I came out of the closet in the gay 90s when I was 14 years old. Yeah. And now I'm a woman in my 40s with a wife and 2 children, and he's got a husband and 2 children, and our families are close, and he's influencing me in new ways. And that's why that song exists. It's this latter-day serenity that Elton experiences and that I get to watch.
Well, here's something that I've just recently experienced, the moment when the people that you invest the most in, that you love more than anything, more than even yourself, ultimately you do a good enough job where they decide to go on and live their own life.
Yeah, you are experiencing.
I am experiencing that as we speak. And that's why that song, You Without Me, when I heard it for the first time, and you remember, I was in pieces. And in a very beautiful way, the sad pride, the weird combination of absolute achievement and loss in equal measure is something I've never experienced before like this.
Yeah, Elton's experiencing that too.
Yeah, that moment when you realize the identity is kicking in and you got to let go.
Yeah.
Powerful for you to write that, powerful for you to be going through that, to hear that, powerful to listen to.
I may have written it a bit preemptively, you know, because my kids are still pretty little. They're 10 and 7. But I did see it happening to Elton and David, and I was watching that happen, and I was experiencing little essences of it in my own relationship with my oldest child, particularly, and kind of dreading it and looking forward to it at the same time. That simultaneous pride and devastation that comes with saying goodbye to that tiny little kid is, I think, something that everybody can relate to.
There are 5 tracks on each side of the album. It's like a vinyl album. We've kind of said, this is a proper album, 5 tracks on side 1, 5 tracks on side 2. And Brandy closes side 1, which starts off so raucously with the most beautiful, gorgeous song that melts your heart and makes you cry.
And there are 2 individual moments, one that closes side A and one that closes side B. And the first one is me, and the final one is
That's
Elton.
right, and the rest is a pure collaborative
Yeah.
experience. What is it about that distinction, that intermission? I still love putting a record on. I love the intermission. I love the commitment. I know what I love. What is it for you?
It never, ever gets old. It reminds me when Bernie and I used to sit there on the floor at Frome Court and listen to Eli and the 30th Convention with our headphones on the floor, or Joni Mitchell, or Blood, Sweat and Tears' first record, or Bookends by Simon Garfunkel, or the band, music from Big Pig, Big Pink.
Who's also good, by the way.
There is a record by Big Pig, and she's Irish, then it's good. So...
He's on his shit.
But no,
he does.
for me, it's that magic has never gone. And that's why I love the fact that vinyl's come back.
I know,
In fact, our albums, there's cassettes available. And cassettes are coming back. Why?
bought him a
I don't know
cassette
why
player.
cassettes are coming back, but there you go.
He plugged it in and it blew up.
What's
My
that?
one blew up as well.
The cassette player I bought you.
Oh, yeah. So I know, no, but it works on battery.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Side 2.
Side 2. Title track. You're just ticking all the boxes, man. All the timeless boxes. We got to have a title track. You know, we got to have a song that really stands up for the record as a whole. And I want to talk about the band. I want to talk about the room and the energy in the room on this, because to me, I feel like everyone's showing up on this song in a big, big way.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one.
Well, we recorded the album at Sunset Sound in Studio 3, which is where it's got the smallest control room and the very big studio. So we're all sitting there in the control room listening like this. The band was Chad Smith from the Chili Peppers on drums, Pino Palladino on bass, Brandy on guitar, Andrew Watt on guitar, me on piano, and Josh Klinghoffer on the synthesizer in another studio.
From the Pearl Jam family.
Yeah. So that was the band. Sunset Sound is falling to bit, basically, but it is the most wonderful room because
Why?
because it has history. This was the room where Prince did Purple Rain.
It has grit.
I mean, hello. And you don't have to have a shiny new studio to make a great record.
Yeah.
Sometimes the funkiest records come out of the most crap studios. I mean, Stax Studios wasn't the biggest great studio, but what came out of it, and Motown is exactly the same. It's the music, it's the musicians, live musicians playing good music. And that's why this record sounds so good, because those musicians that we used were amazing.
Yeah, and it's like this room, and the history accumulates in these rooms.
Yeah, you feel it.
It layers the walls. You can feel that history, and a lot of times it's the same instruments, it's the same piano. The wood ages and absorbs things, and there's just a mysticism in these older places.
Yeah. When you both acknowledge that you've been there, is it the same or is it different to each of you when that lyric comes up?
Of all the songs on the album, the lyric of Who Believes in Angels is most about what the experience of making the album was like for me, and what I interpret it to have been like for Elton. And the lyric, I Have Been There in particular, it's a nod to like Elton's journey in his life, and even a little bit his sobriety, because that's a phrase I remember my dad saying a lot when he would go into AA and get sober. I've been there, I'll be there again, I've been there. So I put that in there, but the concept of setting the pleasantries aside, about taking off the tie and really exposing who we really are to each other in that way, it was, I think, what their album is about. It was a big moment. And the mysticism of our lives leading us to each other at this point is a hard thing to really even wrap my head around. And so the concept of Who Believes in Angels is just very much like, can you believe this?
And it's also a great hook. I mean, I have been there.
Well, you doubled it. It was just one lyric one time, and he kept saying it. And he made it a hook. It was one time in the song it said, I have been there, and then Elton repeated it until it was a cornerstone.
It was such, because it's such an important, those 3 words, I've been there, or I have been there, 4 words.
Yeah.
It says a lot about everybody's life.
You have been there.
We've been there, but look where we are now. That's what we've been there, but look where we're doing, and look what we're doing now. And listen to this song and the powerfulness of this song. The power of the chorus of that song is quite incredible, and it starts off quite slowly with the piano bit, and then it builds this incredible chorus. It's a real statement song. I think when we recorded it, we all went, "Wow."
Who's the rodeo queen, you or me?
You.
Yeah.
Hello. Miss Home Depot sitting over there. I do not go near horses. Bernie is a rodeo.
Yeah, he's a rodeo queen.
Home Depot.
Riverman.
Yes.
Oh, God, Elton, you're on it.
Andrew Watt
Annoy the shit out of both of you in the
had
very
this
best
riff.
possible way.
Then he goes, what about my riff? And I go, later. And I thought, it was about the 7th song we recorded, probably. I don't know. But actually,
loved it.
it's a great riff.
I
It's a great
loved it.
riff.
As soon
It's
as
that
I heard it,
riff.
yeah. I wanted to write to
Yeah.
it immediately, but I had a hard time.
And I was just pushing Andrew off, and, he's such a sweetheart. But in the end, it turned out to be so great.
It's one of the best songs.
Why did
Yeah.
you have a hard time writing to it?
I don't know if I can write lyrics that way very easily. It's like, I'm not sure. Has Bernie ever written a lyric to music?
A little. Sometimes sorry seems to be the hardest word.
Oh, that's
Some
an
of it.
amazing song. Yeah, so I have to really dig for that. It was
Don't
really...
Go Breaking My Heart. which
Oh,
is-
really?
yeah.
And so how did you present that music to him?
I just played it to him and said, get me a lyric. But he did it, but
Yeah, it's hard. So I couldn't do
You
it.
normally do it like Bernie does. You just write
Yeah.
and then you apply as and when.
For Elton, I did what I just took. Bernie was taking me to dinner. We were having steaks in Beverly Hills and drinking whiskey sours and talking about Elton and talking about lyrics. And Bernie was nurturing me through the whole process. And I learned so much from Bernie before I ever met him. So there were things about writing for and about Elton that I had as a goal in mind, and Bernie writes these fantastical songs about comic book characters and other people that aren't in his life. Some are autobiographical, some are about Elton, his sing about himself, but some are about a cartoon character. Nobody knows what Gray Seal is about. And I couldn't dig and get that done no matter what I did. And then Elton, I had like this one idea kicking around. I was gonna say, who knows what the river knows? I was like, that's a nice line. So I was going, who knows what the river knows? Like walking around the studio. And Elton one day gets finished with something on the piano and he goes, how are we gonna wrap up this Riverman song? Have you got that Riverman song yet? And I said, Riverman, like Benny and the Jets, like the Riverman, he's a character. Yeah. And I was able to write the song, but again, it came from Elton and Bernie. It was such a seedling moment. And the Riverman exists now.
I have to say that all 4 of us contributed to every song in some way or another. The fact that 4 of us were in the studio, we felt each other's souls, if that sounds so pretentious.
No, it's
but it
beautiful.
just filtered into everything.
It did.
Yeah. And Andrew, of course, he's just so easy to please.
Well, what I love about Andrew and the way that he moves through these incredible opportunities to work with artists of all different age groups and generations, but you can just tell he's living his best life, is that he brings the best of what we know out of you
Oh.
when your instinct might be to have left that part of you
Yeah.
behind. Because you're looking for the next thing. I've done that thing.
Yeah.
The end of Riverman is a classic example of that. That is one of the most Elton John endings I could
Well,
ever
he
want on
nods
steroids.
at Pinball Wizard just for a
Correct.
second, and it's there and then it's gone, but it's just enough to remind people.
Listen, I've been lucky to work with Gus Dudgeon, Chris Thomas, T-Bone Burnett, Gene Page, Greg Penny, and Andrew is up there with all of them. I've never known anyone who can get so much out of me so quickly in the studio, and I'm quick. But he's so infectious, and he hears something you don't. Play that again. I can't imagine making another record. Oh, Pat Leonard is another wonderful producer I worked with, amazing. I've been blessed with those kind of people. But Andrew, I can't really envisage making another record without Andrew.
Your chemistry with him is unbelievable.
The two of us are like,
Yeah.
we're locked here.
He doesn't get his feelings hurt. He's he's an explosive personality in himself.
Elton, why are you so impatient?
His hands are almost like inverted. He's just incredulous.
Yeah.
And Elton, what are you doing? You just tore up the lyrics.
Does it ever get to a point where he's like, do that thing? And I've spoken to Ed about this in Pearl Jam, right?
Yeah, this is a good question.
Do that thing
Yeah.
that we all love,
Yeah.
that you haven't done for a while, but it's going to work here.
Yes, he does.
And how does that make you feel as someone who is absolutely dedicated to progress and forward thinking and moving on to the next thing?
Because an artist doesn't know what's best for them. The whole point of having a producer is that sometimes you can't see the wood for the trees.
Yeah.
And Andrew will hear something from my past work or something I've just played that I haven't played that I've forgotten or I've just brushed over and said, no, go back there, go back there. He picks things up musically, and it's essential if you have a producer, that's what they're there for. And then he'll just cry with laughter. beat the shit out of the piano. Go on, go on. 'Cause I do have the strongest left hand in the business, I think.
Yeah, it's profound.
But Riverman, really, basically, it's a bit Fleetwood Mac-y, I think. Isn't it?
Yeah,
With the Tom Toms
and he
stuff.
loves Fleetwood Mac. But
I
there's
love-
like
who doesn't?
Zeppelin. It's
but
like
then the
Zeppelin
guitar
moments.
solo,
Yeah.
when it goes to the guitar solo, it's the Allman Brothers. And I told him what to play.
He wrote that
I
solo.
every note. I said, play that. When he did it, I said, now put a harmony on it. And so I did the guitar solo. He played it, but I wrote it.
I remember.
Yeah, I said, no, it's got to sound like the Allman Brothers did in 1970 something, that's how it sounds.
How much fun.
And at that point, it was really fun. We were off to the races. And we got a live take of that. I remember we had a live take of that song. Do you remember this? And we had just wrapped it, and suddenly we realized that the door to where Elton's piano was left ajar. So the piano was going to be in everything. And it was this moment of like, we knew that we either had to do it again or commit to it, because there was going to be no overdubbing or changing, because and we committed to it.
Good. Yeah.
And for that reason, I think it has a really spontaneous feel.
It's the most live sounding song, definitely
Yeah.
on the record. To
That's
me.
why.
And it's a very live sounding album, but yeah, that one for sure.
Thank God that's what I wanted.
A Little Light? Did I get that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Little Light.
Let's go back to the beginning of the album.
That's
I'm
right,
sitting
that's
in my
right.
house. Brandy's staying at a house, in the guest house. She comes in one morning and Israel and Gaza had happened. And I've got the New York Times, I've got the LA Times, and I'm going, why are we making a fucking record now when this is going on in the
Why
world?
does this matter?
And I was really angry and I was upset. And it was just giving me another excuse to say, let's go home. And she just took the newspapers, she took my anger, and she more or less said, okay, we'll write a song about changing the world. And we recorded it that day, didn't we?
Yeah, and he was he had his, just like it's described in the song, he had his newspapers on his plate and there were toast crumbs everywhere, and I sat down and I was stunned myself from having read the news, and we were having this conversation that was just bleak, and like that first verse of that song is almost verbatim what he was saying, which was like, why are we doing this? Why am I doing any of this? How is our song and our album important at all today or yesterday or tomorrow? The way I've written the song and why it's so important is that I'm not saying like, oh, let's do our job and let a little light into the world. I'm not saying to be apathetic to it. I'm not saying turn a blind eye. I'm actually saying let it fully in, let it shatter your heart wide open until the light comes through that pain.
So powerful.
It's a different thing than saying, well, our job is to lighten things up, because that's not what our job is. Our job is to break our hearts for everyone to see, and then translate that to other people so that they can, in turn, break their hearts and let light into the world. That's that Leonard Cohen concept, and I felt like that's my verse is what I wish I'd said to Elton, but I didn't have the faculties at the moment. Only with my guitar would I have the faculties.
If people are going through hard times and the world is hard, artists, whether they're visual artists, whether they're writers or poets or whatever, photographers or musicians, they come through because they have to. You cannot suppress art.
Why do you think people who make policy try?
I think because it's such a powerful thing that it can rally people to feel all sorts of ways. They can feel empathy toward a demographic that they hated before. They can come together in resistance. They can be soothed and solved by those things out of a resistance maybe that's toxic. So it can do things like make massive amounts of people act the same way. And I think that that's a really dangerous thing, like high education.
I'm glad you said that. I do think it comes from a place of fear. I don't think it's a case of trivializing art. I think it's fearing art and what it can do.
Yeah.
It's both stymieing the human feeling and the soul, and the human spirit will always survive. Look at Auschwitz, look at the Holocaust, look at the things people have been through all their lives. It will always survive because the human spirit is so strong. And the best way of getting it out is through art, like the Jesse Eisenberg films, and what was the film last year?
A Zone of Interest.
Zone of Interest.
Yeah.
Those things, the human spirit will always survive. The arseholes who try and suppress it won't.
That song really hits home.
Yeah, for me too. It's a song about light, but there's no apathy in it.
And also, it's a bit Tom Petty, who I love. And I thought, oh, that sounds like Tom Petty. How great! I love Tom Petty. How much I miss Tom Petty's records and how much I loved him. And
They were so freeing.
Yeah.
I love in the end that you start to sing in falsetto, which
Yeah.
you haven't done in
Yeah, when was the
so
last time that
long.
happened?
no, but I was sitting on a cactus.
He just starts going, woo! And I was like, oh, wow, that's Elton John's falsetto. We haven't heard that in a really long time. And he just decided to do it.
Yeah, she dug it out of me. She did.
I think you dug it out of each other. That's what's awesome about it is everybody is just pushing themselves in the best possible way. Which brings us to one of the most beautiful and simple, intimate songs on the record, which is Someone to Belong To.
Yeah. It's a song about David that she wrote. And David's been waiting for about 30-something years for someone to write a song about him. And finally it happened. But it's just so beautiful. As soon as I read the lyric, I just thought, I got to make this bit Everly Brothers, very simple, just a beautiful, simple love song.
Yeah.
Again, very easy to write because I love him so much. And if there's gold, still gold in those hills, I owe it all to you.
Yeah. Did David kind of save your life to some degree?
David, I got sober in 1990. I met David in 1993. I don't think he saved my life, but he made me have the life that I've always wanted.
He gave you the life.
He gave me the
That's
life.
really well said.
I didn't have a life, so I was still, before I met David, I was alone. I had nobody. He was the person that I've been looking for all my life. And our relationship has been fantastic. It's had ups and downs because that's how relationships go. He got sober too. We had children, which was the best idea, which was his idea. And he persuaded me that I could be a good dad. And everything that he's done for me, he's the sensible one in the relationship. I'm this fucking stupid one.
No,
I'm
you are not.
I'm the hot-headed idiot. But he's so annoying because when we're having an argument, he's so calm. I'll go, and he's just like, well, no, listen to me. And I go, no, you're so Canadian.
That line, well, I've tried you, denied and defied you, thrown punches in the air,
Yeah, yeah.
closed my eyes and count to 10,
10.
praying you'd still be standing
Standing
there.
there.
Seeing David arrive in the studio and Elton immediately react to feeling safe,
Yeah,
dropping
yeah.
down, having a laugh, taking himself less seriously. David is the antidote to everything about Elton that is difficult for him to navigate. And it was like, I discovered Elton in 93, so that's the year that he met David. And Elton and David were the first gay couple I saw in
It's
my
a
life.
blueprint in some respects.
Yeah, and here I am now, all these years later, having observed this really beautiful, powerful, and hilarious relationship, by the way. And I was like, I just saw it. I just had to write a song for David because he's
Not just personally what he's done for me, professionally what he's done for me. On the way over, I couldn't sleep on the flight, and I was just thinking, I have the two most beautiful children. I have David, and I just was so happy. I'm bored as shit because I can't sleep, but I was just thinking, I couldn't be any happier than I am now. He is extraordinary.
yeah, you could
He's
be anywhere with
extraordinary.
them and you'd be fine.
Oh yeah, and this song, yeah, it's perfect for him.
When This Old World Is Done With Me, look, you're not going to stop. That's the beauty of it. But people can't help but feel the feeling when they hear that song, that there's some end in sight. It's hard not to feel that regardless of how you feel.
Yeah.
But it did strike you at one point when you were singing. It's a powerful moment caught on camera where it's coming to you as you're singing it.
I wasn't expecting it. I was thinking this is a really pretty verse. And then when I got to the chorus, obviously I knew what it was about. So, when I started singing it, I just burst into tears and I was sobbing my heart out.
And that's never happened to you before.
No, ever. And Andrew says, listen, don't put it down. I said, no, I'm headstrong me. I'll put it down today. So I put a piano track down and then I put a vocal down. And of course, Andrew was totally right. It wasn't right. He said, you're going to come in tomorrow and you're going to play it live and you're going to sing it live. That's right. And that's what happened. I did it.
It's not a process, it's an experience.
Yeah.
And we needed to hear you do that.
Yeah,
exactly.
because on there I would have been too upset to do it on that day. I had to be in church and as if I was playing a hymn or whatever.
Yeah.
And then I said, when it was finished, I said to Andrew, I'd love to have a brass band because growing up in Britain, I loved brass bands. Funnily enough, Sam Fender has a brass band on the last track of his album.
Yeah.
And it's just, I told him what I wanted. Andrew sang the part to the musicians, and they came in, and I put the piano down. The piano down was just a one-take thing.
That composition was one of the most incredible things I've ever witnessed. To see him compose in a classical sense, that part, without it needing to be a hook or a chorus or a verse or a part of a song, it was just a stream of consciousness composition. And it was the closest I think I've ever come to seeing him do something akin to writing lyrics, because it was really written on his soul.
And so that thing came straight out of me.
It's beautiful that Bernie found those words. And
Oh,
I think he was feeling them too.
does he know me at all, by the way? Oh, my Lord. I can feel the cold front.
I know.
God.
And even just the idea of the last
got
word,
goosebumps.
the last word being tide, because let's talk about the ocean for a second and that beautiful, uncontrollable to and fro, that flow on and off, and how powerful the energy of that is. And that's where we're all headed, by the way, back into the tide.
Yeah.
Can you ever play it live?
I'm not playing it live. I don't think I can.
It's hard enough to get him to play it on the record. He didn't want.
It would be very emotional. It's such an emotional song for me because it's tied in with my family and the people I love.
Yeah.
And I just, it's a great way to, her track on the first side.
Your track on the last.
You know, maybe losing her daughter, moving away and losing that bit. And this one of me going, and I don't want to go and lose my family. I want to be with them forever. She wants to be with her child forever. So it's both of us had that last track to say what we were feeling about our life and the people that we loved.
That's exactly right, actually. When you put it that way. I hadn't thought of it that way, but you're right. The subtext and this whole
Yeah,
thing
the
is our
subtext,
love for
her last track, which is so beautiful. Every time I play it for someone, they say, "Can you play that again?"
I'm going to mess this up, that line at the end of the bridge where you talk about, who am I if not you?
Yeah. Who am I if I'm not you?
If I'm not you.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you think you initially you want to think they're like a mini-me.
But who am I really? When you
Yeah.
found your identity, what am I left with? The joke's on me. That's the thing. The irony of life is the joke is on me.
And then we all have to find a way to be ourselves when they're gone.
Yeah.
And not to forget ourselves so much that when they leave, we won't know who to come back to.
Even though those songs are sad and everything, they're a mark of how happy we are.
I was literally about to say, I'm going to get away from this whole closing of a chapter of life that song might make people feel in their life or your life it is. And I'm going to ask, are we going to get another one?
I would love to do another record, but she's got to go off and be Brandi Carlile for a while.
He was with me before, and he'll always be with me. He's locked into my soul. His songwriting and his spirit is locked into my soul. I'll always have Elton when I write. And as I walk through the world. But I recently did some songwriting without him, and I missed him. I called him and I said, "Elton, I feel quarterly anemic." It's really hard when you've written with Elton John to go back to writing G-C-D chords, over and over again. And all of these inversions and nuances that come out of this man are just...
You do yourself an injustice. I think working with her would be a privilege to do again. And I think, but she needs to go off and do what she's learned on this record and put it into her solo stuff. And then when we do another album, or if we do another album, it'll be even better. I really mean that. So there you go.
Yeah, we're a bit inseparable.
I'm also, I have to say this, and I'm not blowing my own trumpet, but my voice on this record is probably the best it's ever
It's
been.
fucking thunder!
And I'm 76 when I made this record. So it was, it's live. It's like,
Fucking epic.